called me a boy and not a man. So I'm really humbled by that.
How do you, as Saad Khan, have your creative process set?
Wow. You'll have to pay me for that.
About my actual question, but the...
Not at all. I'm still waiting. For me, it's always been the 3 E's that I look at when I'm working on my creative process. The first one E is entertainment, the second one is engagement, and the third one is enlightenment.
It's not Nograj, which is like a common name for us. It's Nograj.
Nograj.
So why was it done?
Hopefully, if my life is permits and if luck permits and if destiny permits, then you'll probably see me directing as many genres as there are there.
Hello and welcome to Salar. I'm Dardana Simran, and today we have with me Saad Khan, an Indian film director, but mostly I'd say a Bangalore boy. He's the director of Humbly, Politiciann Nograj. We're going to be discussing what the shooting process was like and maybe a lot more about his love for Bangalore city. Thank you, Saad, for being on this show with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, before we begin about asking you about the OTT series and what was the shooting process like, I want to ask you, what was it growing up like in Bangalore? Did you always know that this is what you want to do, and how did the love for filmmaking come in?
Wow, many questions in one. But definitely, I think one of the best things about this interview at the start of it is that you called me a boy and not a man. So I'm really humbled by that. But definitely a Bangalore boy, I think, is the best usage for all of us, for all the stuff that we've been doing. And I think to talk about growing up in Bangalore, now Bengaluru, is a city that I absolutely and I think unconditionally love. And the reason being is obviously the first thing that I tell everyone, and I know it sounds really lame, but it's the weather. Other than that, I think it's just the growing up in such a cosmopolitan time as well for us. Right. And I went to an all-boys school, but I loved doing theatre from a very young age. And when I say young age, I think around 15. At 15, that theatre bug literally, it bit me, for lack of a better word. And I kind of just, it's not that I knew I'm always going to write and direct and be a director one day, but I definitely was very clear that my focus has to be in the arts in some way or the other. Okay. And that's what started the process. And I remember not getting the role of Shylock to perform when we had Merchant of Venice in our 10th grade. Right. I couldn't get the role, and it was worse than not getting your favorite at that point of time G.I. Joe toy. It was that much for me, trying to be on stage. And when I didn't get that role, I was very disappointed. So I think in my penultimate years, which was in my 11th and 12th, I started focusing a lot more on theatre. So that was pretty much my grounding. That was the platform that I think it set the tone for what I wanted to do. And I think right at the back of that, I think I was 17 when I directed my first play as well. Right. I just sort of kept hustling, kept working, and cut to now, pretty much lucky to say that I've directed feature films, I've directed a web series, I've directed stage plays, I have directed improv, performed in improv, and I've also directed podcasts as well. So I think it's just been a wonderful, wonderful overall experience so far in my life, and I'm just sort of excited for more.
That's super interesting. So you were always a movie buff, from what I can pick up.
Always. Okay. I was a crazy movie buff. I wouldn't say just a movie buff. I used to watch a lot of films, and I think 6 to 7 years of age, my mom's brother had sent us a small VCR at that point of time. So these video cassette libraries, right? So those video cassette shops. So I would frequent one video cassette shop, and I still remember, called Krishna Video Center, which was like a 2-minute walk from my house. And I think I spent a lot of my childhood there, Krishna Video Center, pretty much going and getting all the movies that I could. Right. And my mom's at that point was always education, academics, and because of which I studied and did all the other stuff that I did. But I started watching films when I was 8, 9. I started off with the Jackie Chan films, watched a lot of the Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan films, and then got introduced to a lot of Amitabh Bachchan's films, watched a lot of that, Dilip Kumar's films. So I literally watched pretty much everything that was there in that video library, even English films at that point, but not the ones that we were not allowed to.
Right.
But I think that was a phenomenal experience, because I feel when I was 12 or 13, because of that early cinema watching time for me, all those films got cemented in my head. I would remember the names of the films. I would remember the directors' names. I remember one particular movie that even now I quote a lot is Pakiza by Kamal Amrohi. And I remember watching it when I was 13 or 14. And that film is quite a drama. It's a painful drama of a courtesan's life. And it impacted me in a very big way. And my mom didn't know that I'd watched it.
Okay.
So when I later told her many years later that I watched it when I was 13, 14, she was like, what? You watched Pakiza? Pakiza was about like this courtesan's relationship with this forest officer, and then there is this illegitimate relationship, and you know. But I just think that I was just drawn to it at a very early age, and I'm lucky that because I don't think I could do anything other than be a director and writer, nothing else.
Okay, that's really nice. So, like, you know how you mentioned that you always knew that this is what you wanted to do, at least be in the creative art space. But as you mentioned, you've done so many things, whether it's direction of ad films and, you know, feature films, and now onto OTT being the debut, right? So I want to ask, what is the creative process behind it like? Because is it different for various things? Like when you do improv, of course, it's way more spontaneous. But like with this, there's a lots of like back and forth with the script and with actors.
A lot of planning.
Lots of planning. Yeah. So, but how do you, as Saad Khan, have your creative process set?
Wow. You'll have to pay me for that, but
too philosophical?
No. You said just tell me your creative process in that many words. But I think for anyone who's watching this, especially aspiring writers, directors, trying to get into the field, I think for me it's always been the 3 E's that I look at when I'm working on my creative process. The first one E is entertainment, the second one is engagement, and the third one is enlightenment. If anyone who's wanting to make a career out of wanting to say a story, whether it's a story for a feature film, whether it's a story for a web series, whether it's a story for a play. If either one of these 3 E's are taken care of, you got your audience already. I've always done everything in my life and my career from an artistic standpoint for an audience. Because there's no point, right? I don't want to write a script and be like, no, my mom should watch my film and my neighbors and I'll be happy. It doesn't work like that. You got people to watch. You need some sort of a validation, and I think that validation comes from whether it's corporate life or whether it's creative life, either way. So that is the 3 things that I work towards in the back end. But my creative process has always been about learning. I'm a very big believer of evolution. I'm a very big believer that you need to evolve constantly. I've been lucky to be grounded, not because I made Humble, but grounded to a sense of your one particular project, if it's successful or not, is not going to define your next, and so on. Whatever you do in project A, for example, whatever learnings you take, and if your project A is a success, you can't take that success to project B, because project B is a totally different project. I think that's where my creative process comes in. I constantly learn. I try to learn. I watch a lot even now. So my movie watching spree from my younger days has not stopped. I still watch a lot of content. So if I'm not writing, directing, I'm either watching a lot, reading a lot, or observing a lot. And when I say observing, not in a creepy way or a stalkerish way. Observing whenever I'm in an airport and I'm just seeing a bunch of people, I just observe.
In fact, I mean, I have to cut you on this. I was just going to get onto that by saying that, like how you mentioned, like not in a stalkerish way, but by sitting at an airport. I think there are so many stories that you actually pick up from everywhere, right?
Of course.
Sitting in an airport, you see people meeting, couples meeting after 6 years. Now with COVID times, there's so much inspiration all around with so many different things that happen. So getting on to, which brings us to my next question, which is Humble Politiciann Nograj is a story of a politician. I'm pretty sure, I mean, of course.
Please, I'm waiting for your question, so then I will comment.
I'm pretty sure there was, so many things that you picked up as a child, even in Bangalore, whether it's the political scenario and all of that, which may have had its bits to make that character, right? So, Yeah, so now you made me kind of conscious thinking
Uh,
about my actual question, but
Not at all. No, I'm still waiting.
What I
because-
wanted
yeah.
to know was when you actually started writing this character, of course you were inspired by so many people, but what was it like to have this take on making it into like a satirical comedy? Because it stars Danish Sait, and everyone knows Danish Sait being another Bangalore boy, sort of wanting to have like a different perspective on this and not going into the mainstream way of making a movie on a politician's life. So what was it like?
Danish and me, we go back about 8-9 years now as friends and as creative collaborators. Danish came up with the character of Nograj.
Okay.
First it was a voice on radio, and then it became whatever it became. We used to do a lot of live videos, Danish and me. So that's where the character evolved, and it had a journey. For us, Humble Politiciann Nograj is not based on anyone politically.
Okay.
It's a fictitious character, and it's purposefully a fictitious character because we want to entertain audiences. We are not here to create controversy. We don't want that. With the movie, we entertain people. With the series, people are being entertained, and that's a plus for us because we focused and brought the character of Nograj and Nograj is a zany character. It's a crazy character who calls himself humble but is not humble.
Correct.
And the entire world around Nograj, all the other characters, the secondary or the tertiary characters, they all are adding value to this crazy created world by us. And these are people that probably we have observed. Maybe someone is a teacher that we met.
Right.
So it's not that they all have to be in the political environment for it.
Right.
Yes, obviously the nuances of satire is not to in any way try to show what's happening outside. No.
Correct.
We are not here. We're not preachy, sermon carrying, preachers. We are not those people. We are entertainers. We know we are entertainers, and we've always been entertainers. Whether we perform improv comedy live, or whether we write scripts, or whether we make a web series or a movie, we're always going to focus on the entertainment aspect.
So do you think that was why people could relate to it more?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Like there are references even now from the movie where people call Sherlock Holmes Sherlock Homeless or Sherlock Holmes is because it's a Nagaraj and Manjunath world.
Right.
And I don't think any two politicians would sit and call Sherlock Holmes Sherlock Homeless, right?
Right.
So it's fiction.
Correct.
And I think the strength of politics being as a I would say a foundation for the comedy is just because I think as a country, not just us but anywhere else, the people will relate to it.
Good.
For example, if it's a world of lawyers, people will relate to it. So if it's a world of doctors, there'll be relatability. Yeah. So I think it's that world that is creating that relatability. Yeah. Danish and Saad or me as a director, we're not creating that. We're not adding something that you don't already know.
Yeah. So there is, like you said, it is a fictitious character, and even with the name, you guys have a twist to it, right? It's not Nograj, which is like a common name for us. It's Nograj.
Nograj.
So why was it done? Was it like, was this in your mind? Because I remember when I grew up watching the movie I Hate Love Stories, there was the they did it with that thing of having a twist to it, which was love was written in LUV. So was it similar? Is it kind of similar to that, or why was it done in this way?
Primarily because of the way Nagraj calls Manjunath.
Okay.
It's Nograj. And another reason is because there is no in Nograj. He'll never say yes to anything. He says no for most things.
Nice.
And that was sort of a play on words.
Right.
And primarily no, and considering that he's also in the political scenario, you never really get a yes. You pretty much your first 3 answers are no. So that's why.
Interesting. Okay, so I didn't know about this. I just thought it was because of the way that he pronounces it. So I think even now.
So there are two, right? There are two. It's two sides to the coin. It's also the pronunciation. It's also the no in Nograj.
Correct. So Humble Politiciann Nograj was a movie which came out on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, for first Kannada film to be on Amazon Prime in 2018. Yes.
So and then the next one was on an OTT platform. So you guys also
which has come out now, Jan 6th. Yeah.
So you also got lucky to be the first Kannada web series on an OTT platform. So it's now on Voot Select.
Yes.
Right? So while you actually had this entire journey from it to become a movie to an OTT, to go on an OTT platform, what was it like? Like, what was the difference, even in terms of writing? I'm pretty sure because for a movie it takes a longer time. So with OTT being the new way that all of us consume our entertainment in the last 2 years, How was it like? Like, what was the process?
It was fabulous. I think, again, it was fabulous, and I think it was the words there was opportunity meets reality, and vice versa. So for us, we finished the movie in 2018. The movie was very well received because it also got a theatrical release.
Right.
It came on theaters, and then after that, it became the first kind of film on Amazon Prime, as you know. And right at the back of that, Danish and I, we got an opportunity where we had this. Danish met a wonderful gentleman by the name Sameer Nair. Sameer Nair, sir, who is the head of Applause Entertainment. Applause Entertainment's produced shows like Scam 1992, Criminal Justice in Bombay, and Sameer sir met Danish and told him, hey, I liked Humble, Politiciann Nograj, the movie in Bombay. I said, why don't we do something with it? And then cut to a couple of months later, maybe a month later, Danish and I were sitting with Sameer sir. And Sameer sir said, why don't you do the sequel of the movie? But instead of doing it as a movie, why don't you do a web series? And there was not much to think because it was Sameer Nair, right? He's not like he's the head of Applause Entertainment, and if someone like that is believing in two people from Bangalore to do something like this, why not? So we jumped at the opportunity. We were excited, and then we got into the process. And
so Nograj couldn't say no. Basically.
Nograj, the people behind the Nograj couldn't say no. Of course not. And also, you made a point that films take a longer time, or web series take a long time. You can't put a time to it, to be honest with you. Web series is 10 episodes, and you're doing 30 minutes per episode, for example. That's 300 minutes of content. A movie is 120 minutes of content. So actually, it's 3 times the movie.
Actually more.
It's actually a lot more. So the time to shoot also would be more. But it also opens up and widens the horizon for creators to do more seasons, right? So you do season 1, season 2, season 3, like how you had from the time where it was Friends, or whether it is Succession, shows like Succession or Ozark or what have you. They move from one point to another. So for us, it's just been we're very blessed to be getting opportunities. And obviously that comes with the kind of hard work that we've also put in.
Of course.
But a lot of times the hard work doesn't align with being blessed and doesn't align with luck. For us, we just, like, the concoction that comes together to make this wonderful chicken biryani that we love. Most people, right? It's everything. Everything has to come together for that concoction to happen and for that biryani to taste the way it does. We've been lucky for us that we've got all of the basmati is come at the right time. There is the right chicken, the right marination. It's succulent, and it becomes succulent because the audiences love it. So I think it's a lot of that.
So I love how you put filmmaking and you gave like a analogy with chicken biryani, because I mean, why not? Right?
Why not?
2022.
Most directors are foodies anyway. So.
So like you said, this was on an OTT platform, and most of us have consumed, I think, post-COVID, all of our shows that have come out, or even movies having like a OTT release. Do you think the way people perceive cinema has also changed? Like, it's also not like, okay, it's a Friday evening, let's go and watch a movie at a theater. It's more of, let's just unwind, chill at home, Netflix and chill. It's more of that. So but do you think post, like in the new normal, can we go back to like loving the theater as much as what we do with an OTT platform?
Of course. I mean, and the reason I'm saying of course with such optimism is because I watched 83 in theaters recently, and people were cheering and whistling. So in that short time before the Omicron sort of is scaring us, I happened to watch 83 in the theaters, and I was engulfed by the magic. So it's a beautiful succession of things, right? When radio was there and when television came, everyone said people are not going to listen to radio. But radio still stayed.
It still stayed,
When television was there and then theaters became prominent, people were like, oh my God, now everyone can go watch a movie in the theater, big screen experience, massive commercial revenue. So what, all the things. But TV didn't stop. Then on TV, people started coming up with newer formats to engage people. Earlier it was 1-hour shows. Then they said, oh, let's do sitcoms. So then that changed. Once theater came, now OTT. OTT is not replacing anything. It's another avenue for people to consume. Right? Because in OTT also, there is cinematic OTT and there's non-cinematic OTT. Non-cinematic OTT would be shows like Office, right? Which is mockumentary or documentary. Cinematic OTT would be shows like Game of Thrones, would be shows like, Narcos. So what happens to a consumer, to an audience, is that it's a booming time for the audience. Because and it's so booming that right now you've got so much content out there that there's a chance where on a weekend a family might be sitting and arguing. One person's like, let's watch something on this platform. Another person is, let's watch something on this platform. So I think it's diversification.
Correct.
And I think the digital diversification, according to me, is come at a beautiful time as well, where newer content creators, younger people are getting opportunities. You know, imagine two guys sitting from Bangalore have had producers from Bombay, from Mumbai, in Applause Entertainment and Sameer Nair, and they are projecting a show on a platform which is an Indian platform, national platform, which is Voot Select, and it's out there for people to see. And for us, the show has Kannada as the main language, of course, because of the show, but we also have Hindi-speaking characters that are there in the show in season 1. So it's been a fabulous experience. I mean, it's like, literally, I'm going to give you another analogy, and you might like hate me for it other than food, but it's like giving birth to a baby, right? Like, it's literally giving birth to a baby.
It's like your brainchild. It's like
and then
baby.
once you see the baby in OTT, you're seeing the baby grow every year. From season to season. And that's what we're going to do with Humble, the show.
For sure. So I think even in season 1, you have a fab ensemble of so many different characters, and I think a lot of like familiar faces that even people could relate with, right? And I think that's what also makes it, it helps in also making this a commercial success, because if I think when the movie came out, I think it was only mostly Kannada viewing audience or people in Bangalore that may have also known about it. But with Applause coming in, and like you said, this being on a national platform, so many people actually consume it. So now that I'm pretty sure you may have gotten phone calls from all over the country saying that I've seen this season way more than you've probably seen the movie. So I think with OTT, that is what's happening. So as much
I just wanted to add a point there. I agree with you, but you know, something that I think Danish has done in the last, especially during the lockdown, during the first and second wave, is his artistic prowess in terms of the Instagram videos and whatever he was putting out has reached out to a very big, wider audience.
For sure.
But having said that, Humble the movie as well was watched by a lot of non-Kannadigas as well.
Right.
Because it had that English, and it had Danish already had reached in a certain way, had not exactly seeped into many audiences, but his name was getting into that space, right? So even the movie did that for us. There was a time where I remember we had gone for a show in Hyderabad. We'd done an improv show, Danish and me, we were all there, and someone in the corporate, it was a corporate show, and a bunch of people came to us at the back of the show, and they were like, hey, by the way, we saw Humble and we loved it. And we were like, do you guys speak Kannada? I was like, no, we actually speak Telugu, we don't speak Kannada. And then, how do you watch it? English subtitles. So Amazon, or the platform that released the movie, gave us a lot of newer audience, which is not non-Kannada speaking.
Right.
With Humble season 1 now, which is the sequel to the movie, which is on Voot Select, the show, that's also gotten us, as you rightly said, a wide audience. But this time, what's happened is, it also comes from the back of what Danish did during the lockdown, number one, and then the beautiful ensemble cast that we had, like Prakash Belawadi and Disha Madan and Vijay Chandur playing Manjunath. In addition to that, it's also the overall packaging that we've consciously done at the back end to make it seem like cinematic. So it's cinematic OTT. If you look at the trailer, it's cinematic OTT. We've not gone in the space, we'll reduce the budget, or we'll cut corners. We have not done that. And we've been lucky to find producers that the way we have.
And I think, as you rightly mentioned, I think during the lockdown, the first wave and the second wave, as far as I remember, it was just Danish Sait. You know, if I can say, with the way he put it out, and to use that time to actually make people happy, because it was such a terrible time for so many of us. And I remember I wasn't in Bangalore at that time, and at that time, at the same time, it was during the first lockdown that I think French Biryani had come out. And that was the same cast, which had Danish Sait as well as Disha Madan, right? So I think even that pair worked so well with you for Humble, Politiciann Nograj. So just, do you think even that, like that relatability that people have, like for me, like how I remember that, I saw them in that film, but I'd also like them here. Do you as a director also have that, like,
Not really. No, not
like
not
a Shah Rukh Kajal is like a pair that
not really want. Actually, not really. This the Disha Madan casting happened primarily because not because of the pairing of Danish and Disha, and Disha is not in this series, and I don't want to give any spoilers. People should check out what she does in the show. It wasn't because of that. It was primarily because Danny had mentioned that he had a great working relationship with Disha.
Right.
And he said, why don't you go meet her? And, I think she'd be great because we'd written a journalist part and she played the journalist in Veg Biryani too.
Correct. Yeah.
But when you watch both her performances, they're diverse.
Okay.
They're very different. Because in this, she plays it very differently from what she had done in the movie. I met her and I loved her vibe. And I've also seen her being quirky and weird. And for me that's very important. It's very important.
Right.
Because when a weird person comes into the room, they're remembered. When a normal person comes into the room, they're not remembered as much.
I think eccentric would be.
Weird, eccentric. No, but I'm not talking about the person. I'm talking about the character.
Okay.
Right. For me as a director, when I'm casting, it's imperative for me to see a person and be like, if I can't forget the way my interaction has been with this person, the audience won't forget.
Okay.
I always look at it because as I said in the beginning of this conversation, right, everything is audience.
Okay.
For me, everything is audience. And whatever love we've received for everything that we've done is because of the audience.
Okay.
So Disha's casting was there, and yes, relatability of course, it helps, but it was not the sole reason for the casting.
Got it. But if you had a pair as let's say if I want to ask, who would Saad Khan want to direct in like the next 6 months? If you have a pair right now, whether it's like a Tara Sutaria or an Ahan Shetty, who would be like the new pair that you'd want to direct if you got a chance?
Vicky Kaushal and Kriti Sanon.
Kriti Sanon.
And Vicky Kaushal.
Okay, that's a fresh pairing, right? I don't think that's
both are good actors.
Okay.
For me, it's very important they have to be good actors. Because I feel like a lot of people say that directors, they can direct good directors can direct anyone. No, I don't believe that. I mean, I can't make a table act.
Right.
I mean, as much as I would love it at some point, but I can't. So I feel they need to. For me, an actor, I'm going to give a generic term of actor, not an actor or an actress.
Correct.
An actor, which encapsulates anyone with any kind of orientation. They need to bring something to the table for the director, not just their looks. They need to have some sort of. They need to have a thinking mind, and I really like that. So, and I feel the names that I took, they are thinking actors. Right. So when thinking actors meet a thinking director, the only thing that can come out of it is great chemistry and great presentation of visuals that also have a voice.
Correct. So I think even when you guys were shooting this happened during the COVID strain while it was still there. So what was it like at that time? Because you've been directing for so long now. So how is it like? Like what was the procedure of like making sure everyone on the team is safe, and what was that experience like?
So for us, for season 1, we had finished 90% of the shoot, and then the first wave hit.
Oh, okay.
So we just had 10% left. So obviously we were very disappointed. We were like, we wanted to get this done faster, but we couldn't fight nature and we couldn't fight whatever was happening. So after about 3 months, about 2.5 months of the first schedule, we had to go and shoot another schedule. And again, obviously our producers took all the, one of the producers of the show other than Samir sir, Danish and myself is Maz, who has a company with me. So Maz made sure that all the proper, everything was taken into consideration, because we also were dealing with senior cast members like Prakash Belawadi, Geetanjali Kulkarni ma'am, Tiku Talsane. They're also a little on the senior side, and it was tough. And I think for us, right, Durdana, I think on the overall level, it probably should have our show was ready for maybe 8-9 months or a year, and the wait is worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
Yeah.
Because the kind of reviews that we're getting for the show, and people are just raving, and we're getting messages. It's been 2 weeks since the show's out, and we're still getting messages, which means people are consistently watching. Right. And if someone, I just got a message just yesterday, and it was so heartwarming. A lady sent a video of her 3-year-old daughter saying a Nagraj line.
Okay.
And sent the video to me on Instagram and said that they've already watched the show 3 times.
Right.
They've watched 10 episodes 3 times. That means they watched 300 minutes of content.
Yeah.
They've done 900 minutes of content consumption, and those 900 minutes are our show.
Right.
It's like it's such a fabulous thing to hear.
Yeah. What is the one genre that you wanna sort of get into and also try out as a director? Because you've done satirical comedy. So what would be the next thing?
Again, I don't know if you know this, but I had a show that came out on Hotstar last year. As a creator, I did a horror thriller show, which is on Hotstar, which is called Ankahi Ansuni. I'm the creator on that show, and I'm the lead writer on that show as well. I couldn't direct it because I was working on Humble, but I'm the creator and the writer. So it's a horror thriller. It's called Ankahi Ansuni. I have, other than Humble, I've directed a drama, a Hollywood movie which came out before Humble, which is on postpartum depression.
Okay.
And I chose that drama because I was doing too much comedy. I needed a break from it. That's why I went and did a drama. Before that, I've done a crime thriller.
Okay.
My hopeful, humble agenda in life is to direct as many genres as I can.
Okay. So
because I feel with each genre, hopefully if my life is permits, and if luck permits, and if destiny permits, then you'll probably see me directing as many genres as there are there.
Okay.
Which is horror, thriller, period, sports film, adventure film.
So you don't like being put in a box? If
this is a humble hope for myself, that if someone watches a movie in a theater and they come out and two people are talking and they're like, oh, by the way, you know, this guy's made this film as well. And they're like, oh, but I just watched this and it doesn't, it seems like it's a different person. That is going to be the biggest compliment that I can live for.
Do you also think this comes because you have so many facets to your personality, which is like, you know, you can't stick to one thing? Because I feel that, like, as a writer myself, like, I can't just write one thing. There's so many things. Only when you experience it or when you see some thing happening can you actually put that on paper. So is that sort of what
I think it's
like?
challenging. For me, it's always been about the challenge. And I think if the challenge, if at some point you're working on something and if it stops, it ceases to challenge you, there's a big problem there.
Right. So can we see you doing like a rom-com?
Which is what's happening next. My next film is a rom-com.
That's fun.
My next film is called Sangeet.
Okay.
It's a Telugu feature film. It's my first feature film in Telugu, and it's a romantic comedy. It's an absolute romantic comedy, and I'm excited because it's something that I've never done before. I've done it on stage as a playwright and director years ago, but I'm excited because I love song and dance a lot.
Right.
Like I love it. I have Kuch Kuch Hota Hai was one of my favorite films for the longest time.
Nice.
And it's even now when I see the song Mahi Ve from Kal Ho Na Ho, I love it. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going in that direction.
So I think this one I'd relate with, and I'd say that dharma has had a huge effect on all of us growing up.
Of course.
If you have seen that, then I think just being in the film industry makes so much sense, right?
Yeah.
Because that is the inspiration to so many things that
absolutely. I think, I also believe that good you brought that up. You know, I also believe that for every kind of a movie or a show, there's an audience. I believe that.
Right.
Like there is an audience for a dharma project. There's an audience for some Excel film. There's an audience for everything. And I think with the digital age, we're seeing so many newer content pieces out there that would not have a voice many years ago.
Right. And also, like you said, like, you know, it also provides an opportunity for leading actors, right?
Yeah.
Because I think initially it was just, we need a big break through films, but that can also happen if you are a part of a really good web series.
Absolutely.
I think that opportunity, I think it's widening, and there's so much scope on both digital as well as cinematic platforms.
Absolutely, and I love it, and I think it's beautiful, and I think that synergy was always there. It just needed a particular domain, and that domain is there now. And I think a lot of the aspiring artists across the country or just anywhere, right? You can be sitting, like today we are consuming stuff. We're sitting here, we're consuming stuff where a guy is sitting and making in France, which is so beautiful. I think that is something that I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, and I think even with this, what helps is there's actually not too much stress with the entire, what is the box office collection, what are the numbers like.
Oh, there is a stress of that.
But with the box office, it's a different way. Yeah.
But there is a stress. There'll always be a stress. See, when someone is putting money into an artistic effort that you're putting out there, there is always going to be a profit and loss sheet. Always. And there's always going to be that. Like, for example, if a season 2 doesn't get greenlit
Correct.
then it's a loss.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a loss for all parties involved, right?
Right.
For my company, which I was talking about with Mars, First Action Studios, we are a part of a bigger conglomerate, which is Rainshine, which is from Bombay.
Right.
And we were guys again from Bangalore, and after Humbly, we were doing a lot of ad films and content creation, and we got an opportunity to merge with
Right.
a Mumbai-based company,
Correct.
but still keep our business in Bangalore.
Right.
So for everything, there is going to be a particular answerability. It always is going to be there.
So,
even if tomorrow I make a bigger budget project, I'm still going to be answerable. Even if it comes just directly on OTT.
And I think which is why I rightly, when I introduced you, used the word Bangalore boy, because I think a large part of you growing up in the city and the love for cinema has been like a good merge, right? And as you mentioned, Maz being your younger brother and both of you being, and Danish Sait, all of y'all being Bangalore boys and just growing up, but by sort of carving your own niche, doing the things that you love are a huge inspiration for so many people out there to being able to stick to their roots, but also spread your wings super high and soar, right, while you're at it. So having said that, I firstly want to congratulate you and the entire team for pulling this off and doing what you love.
Thank you to the audience. If you're watching this, thank you so much to the audience. I know it sounds very humble and you might be like, oh my god, is he faking it? But we love you the most. We really do.
So having said that, I just wanted to ask you and wrap this really interesting conversation that I had by you giving a glimpse into what was the one thing that keeps you this motivated, and what is the one thing that, let's say, most other Bangalore kids could probably see this and feel inspired by?
The beautiful question, Durdana. I think the one word that I think is going to be there with me for the rest of my life is respect. I think our industry and whatever we do, there's a lot of success and failure to it, always attached. There's only two sides of the coin. There's never in between. No one's going to come and say, oh, he made an average project and now, it doesn't work like that. Those are things that people forget. But I think the one thing that I've been very lucky to learn is that if you respect people that you work with, whether they are actors, stars, technicians, even if they are people who are in our world, they're called spot team.
Correct.
Spot boys, right? And for those who don't know, spot boys are people who are there on set to even give you coffee, chai, biscuits, what have you. If you are able to respect a spot boy equal to the way you respect a producer, you're going to go places.
Right.
It's going to happen because yes, of course, there is talent, there's skill, there's a lot of other things, but I think one thing that really holds fort for a long time is respect.
Right.
And I think it's like with my direction team, for example, right? These are people who are assisting me for a particular project. If I respect their time and the fact that they are there, because their name is not coming in the end of that last title card, it's my name.
Right.
But they're working. But I'm at the end of the day, who takes the most out of it? It's the stars, the main protagonist, and the people there, the producers and the director.
Right.
But what about everyone behind the scenes? So I think that understanding is crucial because skill set, talent, hard work you can all put in, but this is a non-negotiable entity.
Right.
And it's a non-negotiable entity, and that entity helps you build equity.
Nice.
And that equity it'll come in ways, and I have seen this. I've had situations where someone has worked with me 10 years ago, and because of some small act of respect, they've bought it up. And it fills me up because I'm like, yes, that is something, and it's something that for anyone who's aspiring, the way to learn it is to practice it yourself. That's the only way you can learn it. This can't be taught. You have to practice it yourself. So I think that's the one takeaway that I've had that I want to share with everyone.
So you've entertained us with Humble Politiciann Nograj, you've given the engagement and you've gotten it as well, and you've also enlightened us with this thought. So
thank you so much.
I used your 3 E's into this interview as
I'm
well.
so glad
I think
that you
your
did. Thank
creative
you.
process is also kind of like helping me out. So I'm pretty sure it would help all
very
the
sweet.
budding writers and directors out in Bangalore or just in India, to sort of see you as an example, as someone who's just doing so much and also hoping to do more.
Thank you so much.
So
Means a lot.
thank you for doing this with
Thank
us. And with this, I want to wrap it up and tell our audience that Humble Politiciann Nograj is out on Voot Select now. Make sure that you grab yourself a bucket of popcorn, your favorite ice cream, sit with your family and enjoy the show.
It's 10 episodes, yeah, and after you watched it, because there's no other way for our team to hear your laughter, send us a message on social media and we will respond. Thank
Do you have a hashtag if we can probably tell
Just
them?
the hashtag, you can find our Instagram handles, mine, Danish, applause.
Yeah.
Just message us and let us know what you think, because I think, as I said, when the movie came out, at least I was lucky enough to go to the theaters and just sit there and hear the laughter and watch it with people. But here, I can't see the laughter. So maybe take a video of all of you all watching and laughing and send it to us.
Yes.
I'll promptly share that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.